someone dies on the watch, here's what we're doing. We all take responsibility for our actions. This document just shifts the...
Sorry, Steve, that is dangerously early. This is the United Nations we're talking about.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Take 5, the
World
podcast
Security
where we pick a
Council.
cinema
It's
legend
not
and take
SHIELD.
5
It's
of their
not Hydra.
films to highlight
It's
their
run by
excellence and
people with
range. My name is
agendas.
Austin
Agendas
Luker.
change.
My name is Eric Martindale.
That's why
And today is part 4 of our Super 5. We're breaking format a little bit to highlight 5 eras of superhero films in cinema.
If we sign
Previous
this, we
weeks we've covered
surrender our
Superman,
right to choose.
Batman, and The Dark Knight. Next week is
Panel
Logan.
sends us somewhere we
And
don't
this
think we
week,
should go.
we
What if
are
there's
not
somewhere
going with the
we
short
need to
title.
go,
Instead,
and they don't
Captain
let us?
America Civil
We may
War.
not be perfect.
This is
Safest
the
heroes
should write this down.
if we
14th film
do this.
in the Marvel
It's gonna be done to us
franchise, beginning with Iron Man in 2008. They have continued to go through 2 different phases, which is basically seasons in their minds, of films leading up to Avenger films. This is now part of Phase 3, and yet this is kind of an unofficial Avenger film, because not only do we have Captain America and Iron Man and Black Widow, we also have the Winter Soldier and Falcon and War Machine and Hawkeye and Black Panther and Vision and Scarlet Witch and Ant-Man and Spider-Man, and those are the heroes of the story. My notes have never been fuller about who's actually in this movie. So, this is a film that is a long time coming. It is not the film you should start with as your first Marvel film.
You can't even watch Captain America movies only, even though it's a Captain America movie.
Exactly.
It's the first time that really happened.
Oh,
Iron Man 3, maybe?
a little bit.
I think more so with Captain... You could just say that the Avengers was a thing that happened, and then watch Iron Man 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So, this is important for our 5 because this is showing the interconnected Marvel Cinematic Universe that has had only box office hits every single time. Sometimes not as big as others. You know, obviously Avengers did better than Ant-Man, but all of them have easily made back their money and easily kept these characters around to now fight together. So, Eric, let's start with you here because to prep for this film, you watched almost all of the cinematic universe. Does this film work as a sequel to those and as a film on its own?
Okay. Well, it doesn't work as a film on its own, so I'll just get that out of the way. And I'll explain why, but... Yeah, so for a little context here, I'd seen every movie on this list when we announced it, except for this movie. But in order to watch this movie, I ended up watching more films for a 5 than I've ever watched because I watched every single one of them except for Doctor Strange. It's the only one I haven't seen yet, and that's the most recent.
Let's spoil the hell out of it.
Yeah, I know, here's great. I didn't watch any of the TV shows. I started with Daredevil. I didn't like the acting. I didn't finish it. I didn't watch Jessica Jones. I haven't watched any of those. So, anyway, Captain America Civil War, I think, is probably the best movie to pick because I think in a lot of ways even though I don't even know if it'd be my top 5 Marvel movies, I think it has the most catharsis to this point, or the first movie that was actually offering up some catharsis, I guess. The idea that the characters are getting together and to fight each other is interesting. I mean, that's interesting. I wanted this movie to not only we have all the characters in place, we have them in place enough to where they can now fight each other. You know, that's in bridge even further. I prefer the Avengers too. I prefer the Thor movies, which I don't know. I'm the one guy that loves the Thor movies, but. And I preferred Avengers too. I did say that. So yeah, like as far as a Marvel film, it's not really there for me. But as far as a pick for this 5, I think it's the best because I think it shows how far they've come in the most concise way, I guess.
And I was really impressed rewatching this one because it was so much fun the first time seeing theaters, seeing all the superheroes appear, having the fantastic fight scene, having the humor, having the interaction. The second time through, all that still holds up, which is good because it came out a whole year ago. Mm-hmm. So it's only been 12 months. But what really worked for me is that this is such a personal story. This is not about half the heroes fighting each other because of greed or anger or someone wants to blow up the city. It's all about philosophy and about personal preferences and personal relationships. And that was so interesting because Captain America is such a fascinating character. This is now his 3rd film where he is the lead of it. Mm-hmm. Avengers are always ensemble films.
Winter Soldier's the other one that was better.
Right, Winter Soldier's great. And, I didn't like his first film, Winter Soldier, and this one really kind of showed, because I'd never really read a Captain America comic, I now get why there's the appeal. It's not just that he's wearing the colors of America, it's that he represents America in the Frank Capra West Wing way that we want to, where you have
his worldview. Yeah,
you have these morals, and he's not going to budge on them. He's actually the most stubborn character, perhaps in the franchise, but also he is the one who's the most pure of heart,
right?
Which is thankfully a really good combo for our side, and
particularly when his opposite is someone like Tony Stark, who plays Iron Man, who is not like these things.
No, and what was interesting was that so much of Tony Stark's transition in these films have been kind of leading towards this point where he had such an ego at the beginning of the films back in 2008 with Iron Man, and the more he kind of keeps trying, the more destruction happens, the more he's recognizing that he's part of it. I mean, he created Ultron in Age of Ultron. He's now
and he was kind of upset about that.
He did acknowledge it in this film, but I think with Downey Jr.'s performance, it's very thankful for this film that it's supposed to all be under the surface, which is good because then you can have a fun summer movie. But it is there. Wish it was there more. It's there. But you have him now saying that, yes, there's been too much destruction around the world. These big spectacles keep happening. We need to not be these crazy, magical, independent agents. We should work for, United Nations. We need to have, we need to be regulated for these kind of things.
Yeah. And
honestly, that's not an evil proposition.
No, it's not. It was the first time where these movies actually kind of tried to make sense in a real sort of way. Here's the thing. A lot of these comic book movies, Marvel movies in particular, a lot of them are action porn without any real substance for them. It didn't go as far as I wanted it to go. Okay, we're going to get regulated by the UN. That works in a cookie cutter sort of way to get these characters to fight. But if we're fighting, it seems less about a fight of ideals at that point than it just seems like more of a fight of slight difference as the ambulance passes. So, I want these characters to fight because for some reason they feel betrayed.
And that was...
And we get there in the movie, but we don't get there with the climactic fight at the airport. It's almost like... in that way, it almost feels like WWF. Because it just seems like they have to be fighting with kid gloves. I mean, Iron Man doesn't really want to kill Captain America here. You know what I mean?
And that to me is because the first time I watched it, I didn't like the whole 20, 30 minutes after that fight scene.
Yeah.
It's a long movie.
I like that part.
Well, I liked it more this time because when I kept focusing on the relationships between all these characters, when you had the big airport fight scene where it is, Team Cap versus Team Iron Man, what was so interesting was a lot of that side banter because you have characters who believe so much in the philosophy, which is Captain America and Iron Man at its core. And then you have other characters who actually have that as a secondary thing, but their primary thing is they care about Captain America. Mm-hmm. They are now soldiers in a fight. This is how wars begin.
Right.
It's the people up top doing this, and the people who believe in them go out there.
Sure.
So
Old men talking, young men dying.
Yeah. So I love these moments when you're having friends fight each other, and these throwaway jokes mean something. Where it's like, you better not hit me too hard. You throw them up against the thing.
Yeah, and that's all fun, but I don't know if I wanted it to be fun. I guess it still works. I guess the original point, I was distracted by the ambulance and went by. I think it's just that these action in these Marvel movies, sometimes I snooze like I do during Pixar action sequences because what's happening does not matter. It doesn't matter, one, because the characters are never going to die, and it doesn't matter, two, because you haven't given me a reason to care yet. Like in Avengers, for instance, the opening fight scene is there's a helicopter and Nick Fury and these cars are blowing up. But, okay,
right?
But what's going on? In this, it has a lot of stuff with there's a chase sequence in this movie that really doesn't matter. it doesn't matter. The next scene that chase what was happening, they get caught. That's it. And it's just there. It's there for all the wrong reasons. Now there's a paper thin reason, I think, literally a paper thin reason to get them to fight at the airport. But where the movie goes at the end of this, where now Iron Man has a reason to kill Captain America, and they are really trying to hurt each other now. Now I'm into that more, and I just wish that those moments shine through earlier in the film. And I know the big reveal would have come out, but it just seemed like, why can't we, if we're going to have them fight anyway, let's have them try to hurt each other.
Well, I mean, I think you can only do it sustainably once. If you do the reveal early on, because what makes Iron Man so scary at the end is that he isn't listening to reason.
Yeah.
They're debating, he goes, hey, man, Bucky was brainwashed then, it wasn't him. Doesn't matter, you killed my mom. And he's fighting, and it just doesn't matter now. If you do that in the middle, you'll have time to calm down. And so it kind of was so interesting early on of some of the airport fight scene is they're standing there going, well, we're not actually going to do this, right? So much of that is it's really a fun sequence, but it also is all of them going, how far are we going with this? Because it's insane that we're fighting each other. As the more they kind of keep getting hit, the more annoyed they are, and then the punches get bigger. And it's always about the personal relationships, because really Iron Man just wants to stand there and go, Captain America, will you just shut the fuck up and be done with this? I got Spider-Man now. We're done. Yeah. And you're seeing these things where the people around them matter, and it is the breaking of friendship and the breaking of these ties is just surrounds these films because you have Captain America attending Agent Carter's funeral. You keep seeing the ties just passed.
Yeah, that stuff's all good. I think it should commit to. I think as a series they should commit to this more. In some ways, the characters. What makes the Batman movie so good is even though I know they're not going to kill Batman, I still feel like he's mortal. These characters I feel too indestructible to me at times, and I think
I can't argue that.
And I feel like that puts a cap on how far you can go in some regards, and that's fine because I think they've hit their niche of making. We're going to constantly make 3-star movies that are going to make tons of money, and that's great. But they're never going to get. I almost feel like they're never going to be able to break the mold because they're stuck in that rut of these characters. Everything needs to feel fun. Everything needs to feel fun and energized, whether it's meaningful to the plot or whatnot. I mean, there's 45 minutes they could have cut out of this film.
Sure.
I mean, so when I said, you said, well, if the plot twist comes earlier, I don't think it needs to come earlier. It needs to come sooner. Cut 40 minutes out of the film. All this Vision weird subplot about, maybe he loves Scarlet Witch and stuff. Vision is literally written into the character to be boring. So don't put him on screen for this long. Okay, there's a piece of paper at the UN they need to sign. We don't need to go to some big business meetings, but we don't need to make this a bigger thing. Show Agent Carter's funeral. Show the UN resolution thing. Show the Bucky stuff. Show the fight at the airport. Show Iron Man go nuts at the end, and I feel like it would have been a better movie. This felt like Marvel's, in a lot of ways, their biggest failure to me, but also not nearly their worst movie. I feel like this one could have been the best, and almost should have been the best, and it wasn't.
And I feel it might be there's almost two kind of Marvel films in this whole MCU. They're super complicated ones of this is you can't watch episode 14 for seeing the pilot kind of thing. I think it's the best of those. Of one that you can watch as your first Marvel film, that's probably Winter Soldier or Iron Man 3. Those are just good standalone adventures. I like this one, I think, better than both Avenger films because...
I like it better than the first Avengers, I think.
It's just this kind of weird, impressive thing that just has not happened in cinema where you go, oh my god, there are a dozen main heroes and we all know who they are. And
I know, the gimmick is incredible.
It works.
I know.
And also, some characters are better in this because Ant-Man's way better in this movie. He has 10 lines. He's better.
No, that's right. Vision never goes anywhere. But other than, literally, they stopped showing him in the fight.
Well, because he's too powerful.
I know. That was a mistake to me. It's wow. It's amazing how they're keeping track of everyone during this. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Where's Vision? He hasn't shown up on screen for 3 minutes. Yeah, he needs to go. He's terrible. I'm sorry. I doubt there are many Vision fans out there, but he's terrible.
Apparently, the new graphic novel is great of him. I don't know. Apparently,
and I like Paul Bettany. I think he's a really good actor.
And they added 2 new characters who were then both loved by audiences.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Why would you use this film to add new characters, and yet having Black Panther be introduced as basically almost like foreshadowing Tony Stark of like, I'm reacting through passion of these ties. These ties, I mean, for literally Tony and Black Panther, they are family that are being hurt. But for everyone else, these friendships are in the same way.
Sure.
And when you're seeing now the inkling of Tony Stark and Peter Parker, we're like, he's taking this kid on, and the emotion is going to like, he's making a new bond. He's making a bond, and he's creating a legacy, and he now matters to this person.
I think that, and I'm going to work back to the gimmick and talk about how much I do think this film is important, and I think it definitely needed to be covered. As the Marvel films as a whole, because we're talking about these things as part of an era, that's why we picked it. It seems like there's a phenomenon of low expectations that exist in Marvel films that they took advantage of. Marvel had not really made a good movie until Iron Man, that of any note, but even Iron Man was just good.
Yeah.
But everyone lost their minds over it.
Because it was so likable.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe all the films have, to where we have an expectation that it's going to be fun and good, but it's not going to be great, so we go in with that. Compare that to The Dark Knight Rises. The expectations for The Dark Knight Rises were it was going to be as good as The Dark Knight. It had incredibly high expectations, and thus that movie was seen as a disappointment. Yet it's better than most, if not all, of these Marvel films we've talked about. Mm-hmm. So I find that very interesting. There's a scene that I wanted to talk about, because I want to talk about Spider-Man. Spider-Man's introduced for the first time in this film. They get the mutual rights with Fox. Sony, excuse me. And they... I'm trying to think why I thought that. So Tony Stark shows up at Peter Parker's place and says, "You're Spider-Man and I know it. Join me." If something like that happened, it's cute. For some reason, it's cute in Civil War. If something like that happened in The Dark Knight Rises, people would be screaming plot holes. What? How does he know that he's Spider-Man? How did he get here? When did he find time to do this? Like, oh wait, Spider-Man's existed this whole time? Like, but it's that kind of thing where we laugh and smile everything off in these films, and I almost feel like they're given breaks in ways that great movies, the truly great movies, aren't.
Well, I think that
people complained about how Batman got back to Gotham City in Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. Like that matters. That drove people crazy.
Also,
if that happened in a Marvel movie,
not a big deal.
Exactly. If that happened in a Marvel movie, no one would care. No one would think twice about that. Well, so what's that about?
It's the world that you pitch for yourself, basically. These films, all the films we've covered so far, establish a world, and then it's up to them to stick to it. The Marvel films have created a really fun atmosphere. They have talked about some themes in a lot of them that I think work really well, but ultimately, none of them are going to be rated R. None of them are going to be super intellectually challenging. And honestly, at this point, that is not a bad thing. These are to maintain an element of fun for these many films to these different kind of films and have the audiences go with you to a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of movie, because on paper, that is the weirdest thing of all time. And yet now the film comes out tomorrow. People can't wait for a sequel to 5 characters they never heard of 5 years ago. That they're doing something right. And I think, like, with the way I watch television, I always have a bunch of shows going on at once that I'm watching, and I'm always looking forward to the really dense, HBO drama. But I'm also sometimes equally looking forward to the best sitcom on the air at the moment. Like, they're both achieving their thing so well, and that's what Marvel's is. And the whole scheme of cinema, are any of these great films to even say as the best of the year or the best of this? No, they don't have the depth. But damn it, I'll throw on one of these films right now, and that. There's some power to that, and this film pulls it off with its darkest elements.
Yes.
While still being super fun.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that it was a gimmick. This film is a gimmick unlike cinema has ever seen around a movie that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the fact that Captain America is fighting Iron Man in this movie, Spider-Man is fighting. You got Scarlet Witch out there fighting. You got
Ant-Man becomes Giant Man.
You have all this stuff going on like this. I mean, and the thing is, I don't necessarily have to have seen any of the Marvel movies because I hadn't. Mm-hmm. I hadn't seen any of the Marvel movies since Iron Man 2 or the first Thor. I can't remember. And I knew all these people were.
Yeah.
I knew that Captain America is going to fight Iron Man. That means something in pop culture that no other superhero movies could even sniff, regardless of how maybe Batman versus the Joker, but that's pretty much it. Like,
I've seen Suicide Squad. I can't name the whole squad right now. That means something.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But I think I could. I hated Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think I know them all. It's just something where the way the Marvel has done this. I mean, they have characters to start with, but they've created like literally the greatest film universe ever.
Yeah.
It kind of blows my mind. I mean, this is something we've never seen before. I mean, we've had great trilogies.
Yeah.
You know, Lord of the Rings, incredible.
Sure.
Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. Star Wars doesn't even sniff this. This is unbelievable. Yeah. They're trying to, and they're.
I mean, Star Wars also has never had a bomb. Mm-hmm. Of its 8 films now, all done well. But this is different. I mean, Star Wars started in the 70s, took some decades off, came back with another trilogy, confused some audiences. They still saw it like crazy.
Yeah,
everyone saw those films.
Everyone saw those films.
But now it's back and bigger than ever pop culture wise. I mean, like it's 70s again, kind of thing. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, but none of those movies made money like the Avengers.
Force Awakens did.
Force Awakens did.
Right.
Yeah,
but which also both are Disney, which is stocking Disney.
Right, and also the groundwork was already laid there for you. Marvel laid their own groundwork. Granted, some of it was there too because people know who Captain America is. But maybe I shouldn't say Star Wars couldn't sniff it, but that'd be the only thing close.
No, it is the only thing even remotely close, and it's fascinating because like even though I like superhero films, I've clearly have some thoughts on them because this is now the 4th episode in a row. Mm-hmm. I go see these Marvel films more for this cinematic experiment. Look, I'm not going to go to my thing I'm going to hate, but like I'm going to see Guardians this weekend. Mm-hmm. It looks like fun. I wouldn't make my top hard choice this weekend, but like I'm going to go see Guardians.
I'm going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I didn't even like Guardians of the Galaxy.
We have to go together.
It's literally because of the experiment, you know. And it's kind of funny because it's like, you know, I'm the one guy that likes the Thor movies. Those movies stand out as being kind of the films that try to do something different. They aren't bright and chipper like the other ones. They're aesthetically different. They're not set on Earth.
Guardians did that as well, and now
they did, but they still had that same charismatic sort of banter with character, with a crew assembled of characters and stuff. Yeah. Like, you know, you're right. That would be the one to say. So I think that might have had something to do with it because you can't explain the Thor movies not being popular. I mean, you could say they aren't good, but I don't agree. But because people love Thor. People love Chris Hemsworth as Thor, but they don't go see his movies. So
that's such an interesting thing because like now we have 2 more Marvel films this year. The Spider-Man film looks generic's too mean of a word, but like really fun Spider-Man movie. He has to go fight the Vulture. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I'm going to see it because he's funny. And again,
I think it's the best Spider-Man they've ever had.
Me too. Charming as all hell. Also, like. I've now read some Marvel comics, and whenever there is like an Avengers run, Spider-Man's so important because he's a generation younger. Like,
yeah.
That's a good perspective to have.
That is a great perspective to have. He's also their most powerful superhero, the most popular superhero.
Yeah.
Also, they have a kid playing him.
Yes,
that means something too. Andrew Garfield's like 40 years old. like, come on, he's supposed to be a high schooler.
So then the last one this year is Thor Ragnarok, which it is a crazy ass Led Zeppelin led trailer, which looks like a gladiator film run by space Jeff Goldblum. That's where we're going to go with this.
You know what? They had me at Thor.
Yeah.
They really had me at Space Jeff Goldblum.
And they're going great. I mean, they're doing a Black Panther film coming up, and they have, this Avengers 3 and 4, which are the first films to be shot entirely on IMAX cameras, which is already another big, cinematic thing.
That's awesome.
They're calling this the end of, the first era of Marvel, of Iron Man 1 to this. I'm imagining a lot of people are ending their contracts with this. So this could be the one of
They finally kill a character?
I bet they will, because I don't know his contract beyond it. I think it's just the Guardians. And they're strange, and they're making bold choices. I mean, this female-led Captain Marvel, I think she gets alien DNA, and they're getting the independent directors who made Mississippi Grind doing this. What the fuck's going on here? But also, Doctor Strange, which you haven't seen yet, is the trippiest film that they've ever made. It's super simple story-wise, but...
it's inspired. I can tell from doing that. And that's the thing. And that's kind of what's, I feel separating with what DC is doing other than quality, is that... And I'm a DC guy because I love Batman, And what Marvel's doing is they're making inspired, calculated risk.
Yes.
Inspired being the key word. You can't copy inspiration. It just fails. You need to have your own. You need to have your own ideas. You need to have your own thoughts on what it means to have a team-up film, to have a Batman movie. You need to develop these things. You can't just let someone else have their own idea, run the legwork, and then you try to do copy off that and just put a dark filter on it. Mm-hmm. And, this is never going to be duplicated again. And I feel like only they can do it. I've seen Marvel movies I don't think are very good, particularly the early ones. I don't like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, there's a ton of bad ones.
But at the same time, I don't like Ant-Man too much. But I trust them in a way that I haven't trusted many studios. I expect their next movie to be 3 out of 4 stars, and I have a fun conversation with my buddies afterwards over a few beers.
There was too big of a summer run when all the blockbusters made you feel stupid. And these films may be a bit simpler at times. They never make you feel just stupid, like so many have done in the 2000s, really. So, yeah, keep on doing this until you get stupid. Stop.
I mean, you said it best. I wish The Dark Knight had inspired superhero movies for what came after or what's happened since The Dark Knight. It wasn't that. It's the Avengers. And in that regard, when they end their phase, their Marvel phase, that's the end of the most important era of comic book movies ever.
Yeah, and blockbusters.
Yeah. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
At one point, Disney's going to have their own island.
It's got Star Wars and Marvel.
And Pixar. Don't worry, Pirates is back this summer, too.
Gosh, they literally print money. It was a steal buying Star Wars for $1 billion. All right.
5.
So anyway, I'll take us out of here. So if you want to reach out to us at Let's Take 5 at theartimmortal.com or leave a comment at theartimmortal.com. Did I just say that?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. I can't think 5 seconds ago. Our Twitter handle, if you want to tweet at us, is at the Immortals Pod. And the Immortals, I keep saying the Immortals, that's a podcast that is sort of the flagship on the network. You want to tell us about the Immortals?
Yep, it's a weirdo podcast where 5 of us review the 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows that you must consume before you die. Yesterday's episode was episode 75, where we discussed the Best Picture winner, Mrs. Miniver, and we ate pea shoes and talked about McCloud, the TV show. But it's really noteworthy because it was episode 75, so I decided to go crazy with mythology. So I made it super meta and involved time travel. So take a listen if you want to be confused about what's going on at the beginning and end of an episode.
Also, another podcast on the network, Ad Absurdum, is off this week, but we'll talk about what it is.
Yep, it's off this month. The girls are a bit busy because raising a child and super stressful work. These things happen.
Yeah.
It's okay, but they are going to do a bonus episode in the middle of the month. At the time of this recording, we don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to talk about a legal film, just the two hosts, and then they'll be back next month as they discuss war games. But this gives you time to catch up on the past 5 episodes.
Yeah.
So, ad absurdum.
Sounds great. If you want to check me out, you can check me out on my YouTube channel. Constant Diversion is my YouTube channel where I review video games. And I think that about wraps us up. Mm-hmm. My name's Eric Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
Bye-bye.
Tony, if someone dies on your watch, you don't give up.
Who said we're giving up?
We are for not taking responsibility for our actions. This document just shifts the blame.
I'm sorry, Steve, that is dangerously arrogant. This is the United Nations we're talking about. It's not the World Security Council. It's not SHIELD. It's not Hydra.
No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change. That's good. That's why I'm here. When I realized what my weapons were capable of in the wrong hands, I shut it down, stopped manufacturing. Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose. What if this panel sends us somewhere we don't think we should go? What if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
If we don't do this now, it's going to be done to us later.